Welcome to this first episode of Bang Average Gaming's, I guess, fireside chat is a placeholder I'm going to have for this. It's a little chit chat between me and John as to the goings on in Malifaux, what we're up to, and we'll try and cover a particular topic in each video. So, John, if you'd like to introduce yourself, this is the first time the users are seeing your face.
Hello, I'm John.
Great intro, absolutely stellar.
What else do you want from me? Really?
10 out of 10. But it's my So John was the boot up my arse to finally get this channel started. I think you were getting frustrated with me talking about it all the time and not actually doing anything. So I have you to thank for.
It was those drunken chats about actually writing anything down. We were too fucking hungover to remember anything at the end of
There
it.
were a lot of drunken chats and not many things being written down. And then one night, in your wisdom, you said, "Get a notepad, you idiot, and start writing things down." And that is how the channel was born. So tell us a little bit about your history of Malifaux, how long you've been collecting, what your first crews were, and that kind of thing.
Oh, fucking hell. I think I don't know how long I've been collecting. Maybe a year, 2 years now. My first crew was Dreamer, which is not a beginner crew at all, but it's the coolest, isn't it? Everyone loves Teddy, and all the most like iconic models in Malifaux are from that Dreamer crew. Apart from the ones in other factions, of course. But they're never born. The flagship's the Dreamer, I think. But yeah, steep learning curve. Still on that curve as well. So
going for a summoning crew was always quite a difficult one. I looked at Tara for my second crew, bought the models without doing any research, and nearly had a brain hemorrhage and died just trying to read them and understand them. So, but props to you, you stuck with it, and you are quite a very good Dreamer player now. I dread them when you bring them to the board now. It seems it's finally clicked with you on how to run them, and you're particularly good with them, I'd say.
Thank you very much. What about yourself?
So for me, you were the dealer who gave me this gateway drug that got me into Malifaux. The first hit's always free, isn't it? Mm-hmm. So I was kind of shopping around and I looked at all the exact same crews that you did. I thought, the Dreamer crew looks quite cool. And you said, I've already got that. Oh, okay. Oh, what about Jackdaw? He looks cool. Oh, no, I've got that one as well. So I was like, for God's sake. So I spoke to yourself and Jace and said, right, which crew haven't you two got? Which faction is one none of you play? And you said Guild. And I thought, great, Guild sounds fantastic. And so I just had a bit of a flick through and I just like the idea of some cowboys that hunt monsters. So Perdita and the family keyword were my very first crew, and a crew which I deeply loved, and selling them was the hardest thing I've ever had to go and do. It was like selling my child. Not that I've ever sold a child and have got anything to compare that to, but you know what I mean.
Bring back memories.
Yeah. Just having the box over, like when the exchange was being done, it was like just grip onto that box a little bit too tight, like sort of losing your first love, but it had to be done. I didn't play them anymore, so that is our rough introductions to Malifaux for those. It's this more informal setting, I'd say, is a good way just to kind of get to know a little bit more about the faces behind the channel. So that is both of our backgrounds in Malifaux. I'd say we kind of peak and trough, don't we, in how serious we take it and how we sort of go through not playing it as much as we should, but it's safe to say it does take up quite a lot of our time, doesn't it? It's a game we both very deeply enjoy and love.
Yeah, massive. It's a difficult one, like when you want to get every move perfect and you're concerned about efficiency, but in your like efficient movements you take 3 hours to make a move. It's it drags on a little bit, so
it does. And then I'm particularly bad for tilting as well. If things don't go my way, I start just kind of leaning back and being like, sod this, and I'll start making mistakes, and the game just quickly goes south from there. But more on that and in Nationals later on. So have you bought any new purchases recently? I believe you picked up Lucius's core box and probably the entire keyword recently.
Yeah, so I picked up Lucius's core box and like pretty much all the accessory stuff, just because I'm stupid and have too much money. But
it's always problems to have.
First world problems, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It was after that rewrite they started looking interesting and actually playable for someone that isn't such a high level player. Made it attractive for me. And it's just another crew to collect, and I'm addicted to buying plastic, like many other people in this hobby.
I really liked Lucius. He was a very close second to me buying Perdita because I just like the mask and the mysteriousness, and everybody hates lawyers, and you know me, I always like playing the bad guys. Like whenever I play 40k, I'm always the chaos evil factions in whatever I do. So you know what, Neverborn lawyers, you literally can't get any more evil than that, even if you tried to. So yeah, I nearly pulled the trigger on that, but went with family instead. But yeah, when he got his glow up, it was long overdue, and Lucius players everywhere rejoiced. And I believe that exact night you were like, "Yep, they're already in my basket, mate. Good to go."
Yeah, I mean,
you had half the models anyway, didn't you?
Yeah. So I like all of the Breach Eye broadcast stories with Lucius in. He's just such a villain.
Yeah,
it seems perfect for the environment.
That's his showdown with Kaladi will always be one of my favourite ones. Like that episode was just, I think I was drawing at the time, and it was just me listening like that the whole time. Not even just wasn't stopped drawing, stopped everything, and just dialed into that episode. It was so good.
Yeah, exactly. It's those stories that really like draw you in.
I mean, painting Malifaux, listening to Malifaux, it's just with a beer. It's my idea of a good night in. I'm quite the party animal, as you can probably tell. So, new purchase for myself, I bought the Dead Rider today because I was looking at a few Jackdaw lists, and I've kind of always liked the rider models in themselves, just having that ride with me, and it's kind of the battle tempo as the match goes on. I found a retailer which was selling the Dead Rider. I picked up the Power Rider for Elliot as well for his crew, so that'll be in the post quite soon, so I'm quite excited for that. Gigantic Grim Reaper and an Undead Horse, which plays nicely with Jackdaw.
Okay. What's Elliot brought then?
He has gone for Sonya, is his master he's picked. So, you know me, I absolutely fucking hate burning in this game. Like, I've got PTSD from playing Keras a few too many times, and I'm not looking forward to that matchup. But yes, he's picked really up Sonya Core, and he kind of asked what's a good way to round out, so I suggested the Power Rider. Is always a heavy hitting fast model that's always good to have in the guild crew. So that's my latest purchase. I haven't really bought anything else out. I've got my eye on the Bad Omen, which is the furry cat-like creature which is coming for the Outcasts quite soon. He seems to have some quite interesting tech. He's a Outcast versatile, so as my Outcast list starts to expand slightly, maybe he'll find a place. It's kind of a bit of a weird one, really. I do like the look of his card. He has got some good tech, but you know, as with any crew, you kind of have to justify dropping something with your keyword synergy to bring in the versatile to fill that gap. So, you know, maybe I'll start bringing him in some matches in the future. I think it's the end of this month he comes out, so looking forward to that. Otherwise, that'll take us on to hobby progress. So, what have you been painting and getting through on your mountain of backlog recently? What have you been working on?
Just my Lucius crew. So I started painting the Lucius core box, but I've been a bit more strategic about it this time. Instead of just painting everything, I've painted things that I'm going to use. So like, there's no point in having 3 guild lawyers, so I just pick my favourite model out of the 3 and just paint one. Paint one investigator, for example. Lucius 1 and 2, of course, Alan Reed and the Scribe. They've all been painted. I try and make a rule of like painting one thing on a model every day as well. So the cape on that one, or the face on that one, or the hair on that one. It really helps you get started, and it stops it being so intimidating. Especially like with big models. For example, I had a fucking hell. What's the rider for Neverborn? I can't even remember.
It is the I can envision
Hooded Rider.
The Hooded Rider. That's it.
Yeah, I didn't paint that model for ages just because it's a massive model, 2 parts. There's some parts that are hard to get to, but I just started by like, I'll just do the skin on the horse, and then before I knew it, I had 3/4 of it painted in one sitting.
Yeah, it's hard to break through that barrier sometimes. You know, when you put your base colours down and you just think this looks like an absolute piece of crap, and you just have to break through that wall of, because when you got your base colours down, nothing's going to look good. It's when you start getting your washes and your highlights in, it starts to come together. Eventually, you've got a nice piece. I've got like Jackdaw 2 is just sat there now with his shirt that's just got one very thin base coat on it, it looks like absolute trash. But I know if I keep painting up and just keep getting there, it will improve. Like I've sort of moving on to what I've been doing. I've been painting basically the entire keyword for Tormented, which was one that I kindly bought a few mates rates. Appreciate it. Yeah, the Drowned were looking quite sad and sorry, kind of sat in this drawer, so I thought I'd give the Drowned some attention. May have googled what Drowned skin texture looks like and very quickly regretted that. The FBI will probably be knocking at my door quite soon with some of the search histories I've got down. However, they do look okay. It's just starting with that deep green and kind of move up to the sort of fleshy colours and just keeping the green in the recesses, kind of working like a dark green and a peachy colour. It's a delicate art to sort of kind of get. As soon as you start to lean more one direction or the other, it doesn't quite look right. But you've got the big fat one, and the big American hillbilly looking one, the giant one with the belly. Like he's got quite a lot of flesh, so trying to work that, he was quite a challenge. The other two, the female one and the guy in the suit, they've got quite limited amount of flesh visible, so they didn't take too long. However, the big Chungus, as I'm going to call him now, he took some painting. But I'm just pretty much doing the same thing as you, just kind of conveyor belt painting, just kind of getting through and doing little bits here and there, and then trying not to watch Netflix. Now I've got a TV next to me now. Maybe start getting a little bit too distracted, but they're a really cool keyword. They've got a very nice it was quite a morbid theme, but they've got a lot of very different sculpts. Like the one thing I didn't like about Guild was everyone's human, you're just painting man, woman. It was very boring. But with the Tormented, they're quite gruesome and macabre, but they've got a lot of really nice sculpts in there as well, especially with the ferryman box they bought out as well, the kind of the drowned siren sea creaturey ones. Like one of them's literally like, this one here is literally like a person on a boat, like at the front of a ship. So I'm going to have a look at how to do some water effects on that, but that would be an interesting challenge all the same.
Yeah, that sounds good, mate. Did you keep any of my original painted models, or
yeah, Montressa is not getting touched. He is an absolute work of art, and also the Guilty. I've kept two of them. I've copied the scheme for the third one, but they're just too well painted. But I've had to just kind of put a few touches on them here and there to kind of blend them in, because your painting skills up here and mine's down here. So.
Nah, that fucking made that orange just took forever. So long.
Yeah. Put in orange, Games Workshop orange as well on top of a black undercoat. Turns out takes absolutely forever. I think it took me about 4 thin coats to get it all done in the end, but I did manage it, and it looks quite vibrant and quite nice. So I like the idea that you had of these orange jumpsuits criminals, the ones that are being, they've been found guilty and on the chopping block. So nice and thematic and very cool. Yeah. Next up, we'll jump into the Malifaux news. So I don't know if you've listened to the Students of Conflicts podcast recently, but they had their Lone Star Throwdown at Texas, I believe, quite recently. I don't know if you've heard any kind of news about that, but if you were to be a betting man, what faction would you say, if you don't know already, what faction would you say came first?
God, it's going to be Rezzers or Ten Thunders, isn't it? So I'm going to say Rezzers.
It was not Rezzers. Rezzers actually came second. It was... Oops, sorry, my screen has gone... It was Guild that came first. I think you'd be quite surprised to know.
Shit. Dashel?
No. I listened to the episode recently, and it was a very strange list. It was Perdita 2, Nevborn Hunter, Double Master with Sonya Crid.
Oh, that's a dick move.
I'm not sure which flavour of Sonya it was, but it's the one that kind of does all the summons and all that kind of thing. So, yeah, basically it was a meat grinder of just summon, because I think she can bring on the Witchland Stalkers and all that kind of thing as well. So yeah, it was Andre Demings who came first, and his opponent Brian, who was playing Resurrectionists. He was playing Von Stuck 2, and it was quite a close game from what I understand. If you look at the overall turnout for the event, 35 people. Sorry guys, but the Brits go bigger on that, don't we? I think Nationals is just capped at 50, and I believe all tickets have been sold for that in a few weeks. So
really.
That should be an interesting experience. Yeah, that's the Texas Throwdown is the biggest event they have with 35. So But obviously, England this big, America this big. It's
Yeah, America's fucking massive, isn't it? You've got to
you know,
like drive 3 hours to get to your local Walmart, let alone
exactly. Yeah,
interstate.
we've got a long drive up to Newcastle. It's 3 hours for them. That's just a morning road trip, isn't it? I'll snip up the road to 8 hours. You know, it's fine. Doesn't matter.
It'd be like us going to Germany for a tournament.
Essentially, yeah. All the news. I see the Boilermakers out now, which is the Arcanists, Wildfire, and I believe Foundry miniature, which looks quite interesting. I have played it on the tabletop, and it is an absolute arsehole to play against. I played it against Max, against his Carers crew, and yes, it's not fun. If you've looked at the stats for it, but 9 soul stones, 9 wounds. Would you like some fire with a side of fire after an appetizer of fire? Yes, that sounds great. I believe it's got like a 9-inch aura. If you begin or end one or the other within that 9 inches, you take a burning.
Mm-hmm.
It is extremely frustrating. I took Jackdaw against his crew, and one thing Jackdaw does not like is chip damage being set on fire all the time. It is really, really annoying.
Yeah, I can imagine actually. Plus,
Because
they're not that fast.
They're not that fast, and you obviously empty your opponent's hand, make it miserable for them, but when they just poop out fire markers just for the fun of it, you know, there's not really a lot of stopping that, because they're not exactly high flips to get these fire markers out. And just these auras, it is quite an impressive model, and size 3 has armor as well. It doesn't even take any damage from its own burning either, like a lot of the Keras models. They kind of have to manage those fire tokens, otherwise, you know, they can take damage from it eventually. Some of them can anyway. It's kind of a resource to get that burning and to spend it again. Yeah, this guy, the Boilermaker, just does not give a shit about any of that. He just completely immune to fire. So yeah, quite frustrating. He has kind of knockback and his other abilities. His card is quite stacked. I can see him being quite a good tech piece. I mean, for 9 soul stones and what he does, I can see a lot of Wildfire crews taking that. And as I said earlier on, I played Keras a number of times, and I absolutely hate playing that crew because the burning condition is just very frustrating. Having to use interact to reduce it by 1 from another model it's such it's a sink of your inaction points. It's highly frustrating.
Yeah, I think, don't know, because Neverborn have a upgrade called Eldritch Magic. I think it's Eldritch Magic. You can use Dispel Magic. Gives you like an extra condition, so you can just remove a condition off someone.
Yeah,
that's your own models and enemy models. So when you're playing against a Keras crew and she's flying around on fire, you just boop her with that, and yeah, it's all gone.
Yeah, she's always quite
Super
a popular
annoying.
crew. I remember at Nationals last year, I think there were I recall seeing at least 3 Keras crews floating around because they were painted 3 distinct styles, is why I remember that. But yeah, it's really irritating, that little chip damage. Unless you've got kind of uber healing and ways to get back wounds and stuff, then it's not ideal. It's quite frustrating, but it's a nice looking model actually, size 3, so it'd be a nice meaty looking model to paint up. It's I like it.
Size 3,
release.
fucking hell.
And the other model we had recently that's come out is the Seamus one I pinned your Discord earlier on. The Last Dance, I believe, the iconic model.
Yeah, that looks really nice.
Yeah, like really nice looking sculpt, fantastic paint job as well from the weird site. Like whoever has painted that, then kudos to you. The only thing I don't like about that model is they've gone for the cartoony, derpy Seamus face, and I'm not a huge fan of it, to be honest.
Well, I mean, the skin tones on that alone are fucking amazing.
The paint job, flawless. Can't fault it, but I don't like the Seamus one model's face. It's annoying because Seamus in the Tales of Malifaux, he is quite a larger-than-life, cartoony character anyway. I get that, but the contrast between his Seamus 2 version is like night and day. If you look at the 2 faces, it's like, you get those street artists who draw like a parody of your face for like $10 and then sort of flip it around, and then you have a laugh because they pick out all these features. It's very much like Seamus 2 is the OG, then this street artist has done this, and there's Seamus 1. Kind of gives me that, but like a great sculpt. Like if you painted the ladies dancing with like a victim, or or you could paint it like a showgirl before she's murdered by him or something like that, or even paint it as like a rotten bell. There's kind of a lot of opportunities there to make an interesting sculpt and to make it your own. So yeah, as soon as I saw the artwork for that, the pencil sketch in the box is fantastic as well. I need to look up who the artist is who sort of draws these and designs these and give them a follow, because yeah, it's great work for them. Right, so that is all the general Malifaux news. It is really of any relevance there. So we'll move on now to the main topic, which is Nationals 2023 versus Nationals 2024. So, John, what crew did you take to Nationals 2023?
I took Dreamer and a shit ton of Versatiles.
What was did you have a flexible list, or did you kind of have a staple list throughout and just chop in a couple here and there?
Yeah, I think Dreamer's quite a flexible master in general. So you've got like punching power, you've got speed, you've got just general trickery. Like it's a very good all-rounder crew, which means it's also not like specialist in anything. So yeah, it's an interesting one, because you really need to pick depending on what your opponent's taking, but my knowledge of Malifaux is fairly limited, so I just ended up getting fucked up every time.
Yeah, I took Perdita and family when I took it. It was a very staple list, so Perdita 2 the whole way through. So Perdita 2, Totem, Francisco, Santiago were staples on the list, as was a guild mage. And I didn't bother taking Abuela. I took Nino every time as well. And the Power Rider, that was pretty much a staple. I did take the guild steward, but never ended up using him. But we'll talk about the kind of differences between then and now. But yeah, it turns out you can't really just take a single list and expect to steamroll through everybody, because we were kind of, I believe we were kind of all in over our heads at the time, weren't we, going to Nationals? It was kind of our first big exposure to Malifaux that wasn't our direct circle of friends at the time.
Yeah, and the people that are playing at the Nationals are really good players. I mean, it seems really fucking obvious looking back at it. Like, it's Nationals, isn't it? Like, why would shit players go? But it's interesting because you also have a mix of beginners there as well.
Yeah.
Still, those beginners were pretty good. And good is comparative. Like, I appreciate that. But yeah, everyone there was like really dedicated to the game in a way that I wasn't at the time. So no wonder I got whooped.
That is absolutely true. So moving on to that, in one word, how would you describe your experience at Nationals 2023?
Tiring,
yeah. I would go for unprepared is what I would say. Both mentally, kind of cognitively, and knowledge of the game, unprepared. It's it kind of blindsided me a lot. After my first game on the first day, I was a little bit, I wouldn't say I was exhausted by that point, but by game 2 I was really starting to flag then. And then game 3 came along, which was the only game I won of the entire day. That was my kind of stand up, lean over the table kind of game, really think about everything. And then game 4, I was like kind of just sat back in my seat the whole time, and I was just like shrugging my shoulders and just pushing around models. And yeah, game 4 was on the Saturday was very tough. I was,
yeah, it is tough as well, because I'm such a tryhard. I try hard at everything.
Yeah.
I hate the way that kind of like has a negative connotation in tabletop gaming, because who wants to lose? Who goes anywhere to lose? It doesn't make any sense. So yeah, I was genuinely trying hard and just being outplayed every single time. It's just people knew the game better. People knew the crews better.
I think it came down to experience as well. I feel like everybody we played respectfully, they knew their crews a lot better than how we knew our own crews.
Oh, massively.
Because this would be what, you become a world champion when you know everybody's crews. You know every crew to a decent degree. So you'll sit down, you'll look at your opponent's list, you'll see what they've got, and you'll look at yours. You'll make the tweaks you need to go and make, and then that is the team you'll play. Whereas we just, me in particular, cookie cutter team, turned up, didn't change it, didn't think, oh, there's this terrain on this board, oh, there's this terrain on this board, I will cater towards that. No, I just took the same fixed list every single time, and the worst part was I was learning rules and things about my crews as I was playing at Nationals. You should know these synergies and the way these things work before you even turn up. But like, even my opponents were like, oh, ride with me works this way, not this way, and I was like, I've been completely hamstringing myself from every game up until that point, and that was game 4 of day 1. And I was like,
yeah,
I've completely like been losing out on movement, and it was so frustrating because they were like, one of my games, the Power Rider couldn't ride with me quite enough to get across the line to drop a bomb, which would have got me a draw. But actually, this guy said, no, technically you could have got more movement off that, and turns out I could have eked out a draw on one of our previous games. It was so frustrating. I was just like, this is someone who was playing by you as well, who they didn't even have like a rider model, like a horseman model like that anyway. So yeah, it was very frustrating. But if you can,
with our cookie cutter crews like a pair of morons.
just you get your opponent. I can think back to it now, and like your opponents were sort of looking over the board, and they would ask. I was asking the questions. That was one thing I did get right. Was, do you have any blast? Do you have any, kind of dispel magic? Do you have any of these kind of things? So I did ask those things there. Have you got any status effects? Blah blah blah. I wasn't like asking them the ins and outs of their entire crew and their life story, but that was one thing I did do, and that did give me things to look out for. Did it help me in the long run? Absolutely not. But it was less of a shock when it happened, except for the one game where I had my pants down, which we'll talk about in a minute. But yeah. On to question 3. What crews did you face? Overall score, and what games did you enjoy, and which did you not?
God. Oh God. This question. Von Stuck, Harold Tull, played Hoffman twice. Lady J.
Lady Justice, yeah.
And Mei Feng.
It's very interesting. I didn't play a single one of those guys at all. So, what was your overall score for the weekend? Wins, losses, draws?
0-8.
Was it 8? No, 0-7. 7 games, wasn't it? 4 and 3.
Well, 0-7 then.
Yeah. 0-8 sounds far worse than 0-7, so don't worry about it.
Ah, cheers, mate.
Although you didn't have an opponent for one of them, so technically that was a win.
Yeah, I guess so. I don't know. It didn't feel like a win.
Is this when you went into the car park and broke this guy's legs? So if he can't come to the table, he can't play Malifaux then?
Oh, no. It was just a ringer.
So would you say, which was your favourite game against which master, and which one did you find least enjoyable, and why?
I think I went into the whole thing with the wrong mindset, so I didn't really enjoy any of it, in all honesty.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not much of a war gamer. I actually just do it more for the social.
Yeah.
So doing it competitively is a completely different ball game. Yeah, I had to kind of like take a moment to reset myself during my ring around, which was nice. It's good I had a break.
Yeah.
But yeah, overall, I think my last opponent was probably like my best. The guy playing Mei Feng was super cool as well. In fact, everyone was like really cool, really happy to kind of like slow down and explain things to me, and yeah, like really nice people. I was just a bit of an arsehole, to be honest.
So you were that guy during the Nationals, then, were you?
I was that guy, and I've learned my lesson through reflection, and I'm happy to admit that. It's I think it's, like I say, it's a completely different ball game between me and you having beers and playing Malifaux on a night, opposed to playing competitively against the best players in the country.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know what I was expecting, to be honest.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're coming from, because you've seen me get my hair off and tilt a few times, but we obviously know each other very well, so I don't mind doing that. You can do that amongst friends, it's fine. So when I went in, I kind of told myself, right, these are strangers, don't be a giant man baby, and just, try and give people the best game that you possibly can, but don't be an arse about it. So for myself, the first opponent I played was Keris against a nice gentleman. It was quite a close game. That there's only most of my games I got trounced in one game, but nearly all of my games was only a 2 or 3 point difference. Mm-hmm. That was with me scoring at least 3 or 4 points each game. So there's lessons to be learnt from that. But first one was Keris. The second one was the 10 Thunders snake hair lady who had the rework recently.
Asami?
Asami, that was against Asami. Then I played Rasputino, which was the game that I won, was that one. And then we ended up finishing the day against Martucket. Sunday, the first game was McCabe.
Okay.
It was McCabe. Second on Sunday was Bayou again. These were the Clampets. And then I finished off against Josh and Yanlo. Finished off with Yanlo. Yeah, so we ended up drawing that one. I think that was more of a we're both cognitively destroyed. We were kind of literally neck and neck, and even Sam, so those of you in the audience, Sam is MalifauxWikipedia.com. So when he came over, even he was like, yeah, you're both going to completely draw this game. So we kind of took his word for it and had a beer very swiftly afterwards. So overall, yeah, I was on 1 win, 1 draw, and 5 losses. So I set myself the goal of just winning 1 game when I was there. So I very much tempered my expectations going in. I was able to achieve that. That was, as we said earlier on, for both of us, our first major kind of Malifaux exposure outside of our friendship circle, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
And it's like going from petting house cats to being in a ring with lions. Essentially, it's to say it was a step up was yeah. So my favourite game was against McCabe. That was an extremely close game. He's got all of his Rough Riders who ignore a lot of the terrain restraints, whereas I had Perdita Cowboys on foot who were just severe terrain everywhere, and I had to. This guy was just switched off, pushing models around. I really had to think, and I absolutely went down swinging that entire game. And by the end of it, he actually stood up, he shook my hand and went, "That is the best game. This is the best game I've had all weekend so far." He said, "That was fantastic." He said, "You were a great opponent," and for me, that really kind of resonated and made it a little bit less of a bitter pill to swallow, because that's what I aimed to go and do, was to give someone a good game and for them to thoroughly enjoy it. So again, that was another kind of side objective I had to set out to go and do, which I did accomplish, and that was kind of a good feels-good moment for me. The game I did not like, however, was against the 10 Thunders. Someone, is it Asami, did you say, sorry? Mm-hmm. I completely ballsed up my deployment. Did you ever play on that map with all the train tracks and the train on it and that kind of one?
No, I don't think so.
Yeah, it was horrible. All the train tracks reduced all of your movements and everything. I essentially penned myself into the corner. He Leroy Jenkins up the centre of the board, and then summoned those the Scorpion guys with the big spears and just threw them in my face. And yeah, it was just an absolute blender. It was horrible. And after I think the end of turn 2, start of turn 3, I was like, I've got to concede. I'm wasting both of our time here by doing this. He was like, "Oh, I'll win 8-0 if you concede now." And I was like, take your 8-0, mate. Like, it's fine. Don't worry about it. And he's like, "Oh, yeah, I've scored some points, then we'll make it 8-1." And I was like, yeah, whatever, going. That was when I started. That's when I started to tilt, and I think I came across as a bit of an arsehole then. But he really dropped a gotcha on me with that. Mm-hmm. But after speaking to a few of the guys at the local club, it turns out this guy is the nicest guy in the world. He isn't like that. He's just maybe I went in quite unprepared, and I'd never seen this crew before, and he just really had my pants down and absolutely spanked my ass. Something I won't be falling for that again though. Like, they've had their rework, the flicker tokens are gone and that kind of thing now, so I still hear they're quite a force to be reckoned with, but I feel a little bit more prepared. So yeah, best and worst game for me were definitely those two. But you didn't have a fun game against Tolo, did you? Would you say that was probably your worst one?
No, I think my worst one was playing this Austrian guy, and he was playing Hoffman.
Oh,
it was
right.
fucking first turn, he used his what are the like robotic dogs?
The hunters.
Hunters. Yeah. So he used his hunters to harpoon and steal Dreamer, and Dreamer was like dead.
Oh
And
no!
that's like the game's over.
Yeah.
Like, there's nothing I can do at that point. The whole game plan's based around summoning, so I was just like,
Yeah. I know you can trade Dreamer about turn 3 onwards once he's got his guys on the board, can't you? He's not
oh yeah, he's
all that important, but yeah, losing him turn 1, that's a bit of a hamstring, isn't it? And
yeah, I think this was like the 4th game on day 1, so I was just like, fuck this noise.
I think it's the pull trigger, isn't it? And it does it again. Like Von Schill can use that as well. And if you've got your hand and you see someone out of position, that's all they're doing is just walking up, throwing something over their shoulder. The rest of the robots can go and punch their head in, and they just keep moving up the board. That's how Hoffman works.
Yeah.
Especially they're all loaded up on power tokens, which means they've all got focus, and they've all got all that sort of stuff as well. It's
it's a hard group to play against with Dreamer.
Yeah, I remember Saturday, the end of the first day, you weren't happy boy the end of the first Saturday, were you?
Yeah, like I said, I was just massively underprepared for like what was actually coming. And yeah, I'm not massively looking forward to Nationals this year either.
Well, that leads us on to our next question. How do you feel about Nationals 2024, and do you feel more prepared? Excellent segue.
I'm definitely
there,
more
John.
prepared.
Yeah,
I've got 2 more crews to take with me. Hopefully a bit more rounded. And yeah, I have much more knowledge about the game now and how other crews work as well. Also, just like practicing flicking through opponents' crews.
Yeah.
On the app as well, just seeing like, oh, that's gonna fuck me up. That's gonna fuck me up. But I'm not gonna go after that. Oh, I can go after that because my attacks ignore armor. But
yeah,
what's the longevity in that? Just thinking a bit more strategically opposed to just trying to win the tactical decision all the time and losing because they've come in with an actual game plan. That isn't just run into the middle and try and kill everything.
Well, unless you raid the vaults, you've got, that's not always the best game plan, is it? I think it didn't help, just as a caveat for those who don't know, the GG4 came out, I believe it was 2 weeks before Nationals last year, didn't they?
Yeah, massive. And everyone was clued up. Everyone knew what they were doing.
It felt like the 4 of us were knuckle draggers walking in, kind of barely even grasped GG3, and now GG4 was out. It was, probably should have done a little less painting, a little bit more reading, but it's what it is. But I'm looking forward to this one now. I know my crews better this time. I'm taking different crews this time, and different keyword. I'm going to go outcasts now rather than guild. I do have a better understanding of the game overall, and I can play quicker, which I think I can do my autopilot moves, your turn 1, turn 2 setups. I can do them now without really a lot of thinking because it's just rinse and repeat, which will then hopefully give me a little bit more time to think from that turn 3 onwards, and then when the game will be make or break, I'll have that time on the clock. Because I always, in every single game, ended up with my back to the screen where the clock was. Almost apart from one game, I had my back to it all the time. So you're always doing that. You're always turning around, always looking, and that time is ticking down. You think, how much was it? 2 hours a game? 2.5 hours a game? 2.5, I think.
I remember.
I remember being like, oh, I still got 2 hours left, and then you do a few things. You look around, and you've got 45 minutes left. You're like, oh my god, where has that time gone? Well, I've barely done anything now, and your opponent's running rings around you. But I am looking forward to it. I'm already dreading the toilet situation, because that was truly horrendous last year, and you know what I'm talking about, and the cognitive load on the end of the Saturday was, I just remember going to bed and my head was absolutely spinning. Like, I was just dreaming about infinitely pushing models around all night, and then before I knew it, the alarm was going up and we had to get up early to go again the next day, and it was hard. But
Yeah, you fuckers wanted to drink after that. I'm like, nah. Just kind of bed.
So what? Oh, I literally got a beer in my hand now. Yeah, that was a long day. But like you touched on earlier on, everyone was very friendly, very welcoming. A really good game against this. I can't remember what his name was. Apologies if you haven't catching this. He was playing Martucket at the end of the first day, and ended up like knocking Francisco into like a pit trap and killing him like the second term. And Francisco had never died in any of my games whatsoever, and then died it. And he went, "I'm so sorry," but it was such a cinematic and amazing moment. I literally shook his hand. I was like, "That was cool." I was like, "I had no idea your guys could do that." He's like, "I've never had them really do that before either." So it was kind of a really standout moment. I mean, of poor Francisco, my heaviest hitting henchman, getting dragged into this pit trap and just bullied with all this damage and dying. It was, the game was over shortly after that. However, but it was such a cool that moment will stay with me through the rest of the games of Malifaux, just as that kind of standout moment. But so what are your goals for Malifaux Nationals 2024?
Oh, haven't really thought that far ahead. It will be cool to pick up some interesting plays from my opponents. So seeing new crews and actually like writing the plays down that they make, so I can understand like how their synergies work.
Yeah.
So like develop a broader sense, a broader knowledge of the game. Breadth of perspective is what I'm looking for, really. Just to kind of, get whooped, but not in a way where it's so brutal it's like 8-0.
Go for it and set yourself a win-loss sort of thing, or are you just kind of going to roll with the punches?
I think that's pointless.
Okay.
I'm not doing that again.
So yeah, I'm going to go for 2 wins this time, 1 up from last time. So I achieved the 1. Now I'm going to try and go for 2 wins. Mm-hmm. I would be happy with a win and draw again, but this time I want to go for at least 2 wins, and we'll go from there. But yeah, I'm the same as you. I would like some more exposure to some more crews. This time around in preparation, I have been digesting a lot more Malifaux content in the background than I was last year, sort of getting ready. I only used to listen to battle reports or watch battle reports or listen to them on Spotify of my own masters to kind of learn that. But now, the last 6 months, anyone that really comes up that looks interesting of a crew I have no idea about, I have been listening. Because if you listen to like this player won this tournament with this master, you would normally wouldn't pay much interest. But when I think now, they won with this crew. What were their plays? How did they do it? What models did they take? And what were their strengths? Because then as soon as you come up against this master in nationals, you're like, I know how a master player, will field this crew. Because 9 times out of 10 they'll go, but if you want to counter it, do this, and then you kind of just learn to what to look out for. So certainly, like some summoners are always going to be a bit of a thorn in the side for Malifaux overall, and just there's crews out there that had something that I wasn't even aware of until I listened to it, and I was like, wow, I'm glad I heard this now rather than of having my pants down later. So what did you learn from, well, kind of touched on it already, what did you learn from games at Nationals 23 that you can improve on in the upcoming Nationals? So what did you take away from last time that you believe you can implement on the upcoming Nationals?
I think really understanding what your crew does in terms of what's the fundamental skill that your crew has that you can use to leverage, and how can you adapt that to certain situations. For example, like I never really understood what Dreamer did, but actually like carrying out a bit of analysis and breaking down all the possible synergies, I figured out he's more of like an ambush master.
Mm-hmm.
If Dreamer had more injured, for example, the ability to cast more injured, he'd be absolute monster, or more of a monster.
Yeah.
I think Dreamer in the hands of the right player can be fantastic. Nakima, for example, she's just a glass cannon. Well, not even a glass cannon, she's just a cannon.
Just a blunt instrument, yeah.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
much so. So just speed, tie things up as quick as possible, and like kill everything. You're not winning by necessarily scoring points. You're winning by denying points to your enemy.
Can't score points if you haven't got a head, can you? So
Yeah, exactly,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah. I remember when after nationals, I wouldn't say you fell off the radar for a bit, but you were kind of you know getting these lessons learned, and you turned up one night for a game with Dreamer, and you absolutely wrecked me. It was like you were like a different player, and it was the same crew you kind of always had, give or take a couple of little pieces. And I just remember you just absolutely masterclass in playing them. You were everywhere all at once, just knocking health off my guys and scoring points. And I remember just looking at the board like, holy shit, who is this guy in my house playing this Dreamer crew right now? Because you just seem to have that crystallizing moment where it all came together. And yeah, you were absolutely on top of your game. Then you absolutely embarrassed me. I was, I think the previous game against you with Von Schill, you'd kind of called it quits after game 2. Well, you'd kicked my ass by I think turn 2 by that point.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, and you're still learning Von Shield, to be honest. So it's
But they've got the survivability. They're a very user friendly crew. They've got the armor, they've got the shielded. They're not an easy crew to kind of kick around like that, and you just absolutely you kind of learn which models need to tie up and how your summoning works, and the willpower duels they fail, which would actually bring stuff in. It's like you said, when you learn how your crew really worked, it turns out for so long you've been playing at half capacity, hadn't you, essentially?
Oh yeah, massively. And it's crazy how thematic they actually are. Like according to the lore, like Dreamer in the lore wants to mess around, play games, and kill things by mistake almost.
Yeah.
He wants to keep playing games. Well, I mean, like take Castor for example. He's just a tank, an absolute tank.
He's a grumpy old man who is hungry all the time and just wants to trundle up the board and eat things.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Last year I remember I got a little bit, I wouldn't say offended, but when a lot of my opponents were kind of looking at my cards on the app and have a look at what my crews could do, I was a little bit like, oh, do they think I'm blind, do they think I'm cheating? No, they were just looking at what my crew can do. They'd never seen my crew before, and I think 4 out of 5 of them had never played against Perdita before. So what they were doing was going through my cards and just expanding that knowledge that they have, going forward from there. So that's something I've told myself I'm going to do this time is, you haven't really got to react a whole lot. When your opponent is thinking about what to go and do and move and doing this, that and the other, all you need to really is, is it against my willpower? Flip. Is it against my defense? Flip. In the meantime, get in the app and have a look at what their guys can do. Especially if you've got some kind of secondaries like deliver a message, or you want to try and ensnare, or just do something that they can kind of counter. If you're trying to like ensnare an enemy and you'd like put in markers around them and they've got marker removal, well, you've just kind of stuffed yourself there, haven't you? So get in the app, have a look at what they can do, especially if you've never seen them before. So I was just really like not even looking at their crew before. I was taking every word they said as gospel, which is to a degree to that. People, you do have to be honest with what your crew can do. But most people seem pretty stand up and could kind of get away with that. But during like the quieter periods of the game, when those laws do happen, I think it'll be important for me to get into their crew, have a look at their cards, and just see, do they have vengeance? Do they have a lot of healing? What are their status removal? Do they have marker removal? Just get in and have a look at these little things they can and can't do and capitalise on it early. I think is one thing I'm going to take forward, because last time I was just very switched off about it, and I was just kind of too focused on moving the models in front of me, where all the battle is essentially in the cards that you've got, if you know what I mean. It's kind of Any premonitions about Malifaux Nationals 2024? What are you looking forward to and what are you dreading?
Oh, just the games in general. That's what I'm dreading.
the whole point of the tournament.
Yeah. I think, like I say, I like the social and I like the people they're safe as. I don't think I'm going to win any games. Like I said, you're playing against the best people in the country, and I've played like 4 games this year. And these people are playing constantly, always refining their skills, always they know what their synergies are, they know their positional games. Like, I don't think I stand a chance, but like I said, getting to go down and look at how synergies work in like similar crews, for example. So yeah, just like real-time crew analysis.
Yeah.
What I'm looking forward to. I think I'm going to take a lot from it, but yeah, I'm not looking forward to that drive home on Sunday after fucking 7.5 hours of Malifaux.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a trek, but we'll share the drive. It'll be fine. Yeah, as for myself, I'm looking forward to fielding a crew that I have a lot more reps with. One thing I know, I was quite a hoe in 40k, kind of swapping around different teams and that, but I stayed quite faithful to Von Schill. I've got quite a few reps with them under my belt, and I've also put a lot of research into them as well. Like even a week ago, I was finding out particular rules and particular things that they can do that I wasn't even aware of. Quite a meaty crew, but I'm looking forward to having something with a little bit more teeth and putting that on the table, because Von Schill does have a little bit of a rep for being, you can't kind of switch off, because they do have a lot of answers for most situations, unlike the Perdita crew, who were, a very scalpel crew that didn't. I enjoyed the crew and I had some success with them, but it didn't really fit my play style. Overall, I'd say I'm more of a reactive player rather than a proactive player. So Perdita relied on a lot of taking the first leap and capitalising on things, whereas Von Schill has a lot of tech to react to things, which is just better for my playstyle in general. So now I have a glove that fits better. I'm sort of looking forward to utilising that a little bit more. I've got a bigger roster now than I ever had to before, and I have basically a list for every single game type now. So no matter what 4 main objectives we have, I now have a crew for each one. And then I can just tailor that. Am I against a Higley crew? Am I against a tanky crew? Am I against a fast crew? I'll have just these little tiny tweaks here and there. It might just even be an upgrade. It might be a model swap. I've got just a broader idea of potentially what I could put forward. I mean, this could all be absolute bullshit. We could come back here in 3 weeks' time and be like, yeah, I lost 7 games again. It could all be for nothing. But like you said, the knowledge overall for facing these crews is such a valuable resource, because I know the 7 crews I played last time, I can just get them back up in the app again, refresh my memory, and ones that, all you need to go is onto Longshanks and have a look at which crews are winning at the moment, because, a lot of people tend to drift towards the meta in these situations. Just have a look, see who's winning and seeing what their shortcomings are. So I think not taking it seriously last year did bode me well, because I didn't get too stressed about it. Which I think a lesson you could learn from it as well, is just don't take it serious, but not too serious, otherwise you'll start to get angry again.
That's such an oxymoron. Take it serious, but just be chill. Like, what? No, I'm not that person. Yeah, it's probably not the world for me, to be honest.
I don't know. I've got faith in you this year. You've got some solid crews. Castor is an absolute unit of a crew itself. It can weather the storm and do it well. Just paint it a second Cavern Nephilim, because that thing's good for getting up the board.
Definitely. And like, I really admire the people that can play these games well, because it's not only dedication, but it's also like the ability to think tactically and strategically at the same time is just incredible. I think there's a lot of value in that. Yeah, it's very transferable as well. So I've got a lot of admiration for the people, but I just cannot do it myself. And it's like, when there's such a skill gap, it's always frustrating to play, to do anything. It's whether you're like learning pottery from someone that's a fucking master, and you can just about make a comedy cock. It's there's it's frustrating watching a master do something when you're a novice, if that makes sense.
But
yeah, I do have a lot of admiration.
I always end up asking people how long you've been playing for, and the amount of people that said they've been playing since GG1 and GG2 was like it was a lot of people. Do you know what I mean, there's a lot of, especially the older guys there that have. And yes, you have you ever played 40k? Have you played Bolt Action? No, just Malifaux. I played nothing but Malifaux.
Yeah,
and that does put it in perspective a little bit. Yeah, when you put it into perspective like that they've played 10 times the amount of games that you've played and some, it doesn't feel quite so bad, and it's such a fun, interesting game, and it really, the cognitive load though is quite a lot. It's each model is, you've got 8 models average. Losing a model is it's so hard to do. As soon as especially you lose like a particular tech piece, you just see your game crumble before your eyes, which is my downfall. I lose that key model and I'm like, oh, the game's over. But I'll be so focused on that model dying that I won't see the opportunity that's open this side of the board.
The space that you have, the opportunities, movement is really key in the game. So
because your opponent could be thinking, oh, thank God I've removed that model now, I've had to commit resources, I'm glad it's dead. And as you, the player, should be thinking, well, maybe a bit of a red herring, go and send up that side of the board for them to go and react to it, and just looking for these spaces and these. I have a habit of getting so focused on punchy death that I just don't. I just forget. Well, I won't forget the primary, but I'll go through an entire turn thinking, God, what my secondaries again? I look on my phone. I look at my secondary objectives are. I think, God, I completely just cast these aside now. And I know these are just kind of bonus objectives. You score them when you can, but I'm like you. I absolutely love and adore this game, but sometimes I really bloody hate it as well because it's so frustrating. But this is for the guys that follow the channel, this is where we're at now. Is there'll be the guys who have aced the game at the top of their game now, but they'll probably look back and think, I remember when I was at the same level as those guys. And it is okay to sometimes hate a game that you love so much. It's just part of any hobby. It's no matter what you do, you're trying to do a stunt on your BMX, you're going to fall off 20 times before you actually manage to pull it off once. Yeah. And you pull it off once, you go, oh guys, look at the trick I can do. And then you're just going to fall off again. It's just one of those things.
Yeah, it's definitely a difficult one. You got to kind of like remove your ego, but I think you never like fully achieve that. But it's difficult. And like you say, you're playing against guys with like 10 times the experience, and then wondering why you lost. Like it's a stupid mentality, really.
And that's the downside about nationals, is you never have that time to decompress and talk through with your opponents, because as soon as the match is over, handshake, score, get sent in, you're off to your next table. You don't have those unless it's the last match of the game, which most time people just want to go home anyway. You haven't really got that time to be like, this went well, that didn't go well. If you and me, what would you have done? You can't really have that end of match kind of talk, which I do think is actually a very valuable thing to go and do, because it's just a conveyor belt of pain. You just get on it and just ride it to the end. Or if if you're going 7-0, it's stairway to heaven, isn't it? But like you said, thankfully this game does attract a lot of very friendly, very nice people. The raffles are always great. They had some fantastic prizes last year up for grabs, and from what I hear, it's even bigger and better this year. So I am really looking forward to that aspect as well. And hopefully we can give out some swag and get some new followers. But that will be what it is. So so that has been our rundown, our sort of first fireside chat, and starting off with a big one on the preparation for Nationals 2024. But so we have been John and John from Bang Average Gaming, and don't forget, it's always okay to be mid-table. Until next time. Ta-ra.
Cheers.